Each week during Food for Thought, we report the latest restaurant health scores, looking at the restaurants with high scores and those with the lowest. But a 6 News investigation discovered a problem with inconsistency among those Knox County Health Department inspectors, finding some were failing restaurants much more frequently than others. The Night Team's Alexis Zotos is on your side, taking a look at why and what the health department is doing to fix the problem.
Restaurant inspectors look at everything from food temperatures to ice bin sanitation, all in an effort to protect you, the diner.
The worst thing any restaurant could ever do is serve anything that's unsafe to the public.
But some restaurant owners found their health score may depend less on what's going on in the kitchen and more on who's inspecting it.
The inspectors all grade different things. You know, we have one inspector that's always going to look for a dripping pipe. We have another inspector that'll never look for that.
You're welcome.
That looks good.
To find out if this is true, 6 News producer Ryan Webb and I spent days poring over every restaurant inspection from the last year. 4,437 reports to be exact. And what we found was out of 13 inspectors, one of them accounted for 38% of all restaurant failures. Inspector 225 only inspects 14% of the restaurants, but makes up for more than a third of the failing scores. On the other hand, 3 inspectors didn't fail anybody in all of 2013.
What we want is a level playing field for everybody. We want all of the inspectors to grade the scores the same.
We discovered 5 inspectors cover 45% of the area eateries, but account for 84% of the failures. On the other hand, the rest of the inspectors cover 55% of the inspections, but only 16% of the failures. There's also a discrepancy with critical violations. Inspector 847 finds a critical violation 75% of the time. Compare that to Inspector 615, who only finds them 33% of the time.
What we're finding is that these tests are not being graded the same or not even similarly.
Now, the restaurant owners that brought the problem to our attention have had failing scores in the past. The last 3 inspections at the Orangery were in the 60s and 70s. Wok Chow recently received a 90, but scored a 64 last spring. They're both assigned Inspector 225. But in our investigation, we found the Orangery failed in years past under other inspectors as well.
If there's a critical item, it should be fixed. We all make mistakes. We all get caught doing in a busy rush.
But what we're finding is with many restaurants, there are a lot of points being deducted for things that are very vague.
Each inspector is armed with the same 44-point checklist, but the health department admits sometimes there's a variation in how the violations are interpreted.
There are some differences that occur that can be expected when you add the human element to regulation.
The restaurant owners' concerns are now going beyond Knox County. State Senator Becky Duncan Massey filed a bill that would help restaurants appeal to the health department. It would allow them to correct non-critical violations on the spot without being marked off.
I understand sometimes things like that can be subjective. And, you know, and you want it as objective as possible. You want it as kind of black and white as you can when, you know, your scores, your livelihood is dependent upon that.
The Knox County Health Department says they're aware of the concerns over inconsistency.
There is always that interpretation that's going to occur, and, you know, what we can do is put as much effort as possible into standardization and then keep doing it and going back and speaking directly to those folks who are outside, you know, either way.
They've taken steps to make changes, including having a supervisor follow up on inspections of frequent low-scoring restaurants.
It is a challenge, but we strive to do that on a consistent basis.
In the end, the goal of the inspector and the checklist is to keep the public safe.
We know that food temperatures, proper sanitation of equipment, and personal hygiene are the 3 major causes of foodborne outbreaks.
We asked the restaurants, isn't it their responsibility to ensure safety measures are met?
Some of them are probably our fault and some of them are probably misconstrued, for lack of a better term. But yeah, there's no question, some of them are our fault.
Kiger and others hope now that the issue is receiving more attention, restaurants may be served up more consistent scores. On your side in Knoxville, Alexis Zotos, 6 News 19.